I find it really disappointing out here how many so-called men lack awareness. And I'm not talking about some kind of deep metaphysical, super spiritual type of awareness. I'm talking about base level situational awareness. It's something that a man has to operate under. You have to have situational awareness. And why is that? Quite simply, because you have to know about what's going on in your surroundings when you're with your family, when you're with your wife, when you're with your children, when you're with people that you care about, family members, even people that might not be as capable, maybe because of a physical limitation or a mental, psychological limitation, whatever it might be. But it's your responsibility as a man to be situationally aware. Now, let me get into the specifics of that. When we talk about situational awareness, we mean that just knowing your surroundings, probably 98, 99% of the time, there's not going to be a threat, some kind of crisis or dangerous situation, as long as you move within reason. Don't go into dark alleys and shady spots that you know are just full of trouble. But in general, especially when you're in a public place, an unfamiliar place, just be situationally aware. When I take my kids somewhere, and if it's a busy and crowded place, I've never been in a situation where I've lost my kids. I take that as a little bit of a badge of honor. And I've never been inside of a mall or at a fair or at a park or something like that, and then just have no idea where my kids are for hours at a time. And it's not even because I'm being a helicopter parent and not letting my kids move at all by themselves, but I'm just looking out of the corner of my eye. And you might want to take a cue from this too, dads, if you're not doing it. I actively spend time with my children. When we go to a park, when we do something, I'm not saying I'm doing all the little stuff that they do. If my kids are climbing on a jungle gym that's only built for small children, for somebody who's short, or if there's a swing or something that's only built for children, obviously I'm not gonna get on that and break it or embarrass myself, stuff myself in some apparatus I don't fit in. But if I can be around, hey, like if there's a big slide that's big enough for an adult to get on, I'll go on a slide a couple times. I'll hang out with the playground with them. By the way, that's a perfect place to do pull-ups. The monkey bars and all that kind of stuff. Crank out a couple sets of pull-ups, get your back, get your biceps going. But that's what I mean. And even if I'm just kind of there on the sidelines and I might be talking to somebody else or saying hi to somebody as they pass by, but I'm enjoying my kids' presence. I'm paying attention to them and I'm paying attention to the surroundings around them. So if there's a dangerous situation where they go too far, then I might step in about, hey, hold on, like that's a dangerous thing. Don't mess with that. But I'm situationally aware. And too many men just don't practice that and hone in that instinct. You got to be aware. The weirdos are out there. They come in a different form. I've talked probably a couple months ago in a video, I talked about how there's still weirdos, that white van creeper, that weirdo that we've been told about, maybe even heard of experience about when we were a kid, that weirdo that would come in a van and try to kidnap kids and trick them and say, hey, I've got candy and ice cream and stuff like that. And it's more subtle nowadays because most of those entities are in the digital form. All these people, these entities, these social groups that try to manipulate and groom your kids in different ways. They try to, they try to repaint it as inclusive, or they repaint it as like, hey, can we all just get along? That's a whole other topic for another day. But the point I'm trying to make is that those entities are more subtle, and they're really banking on you not paying attention to your family's whereabouts, your kids' whereabouts, your wife's whereabouts, and that's how people get into trouble. Now, you don't want to overcompensate and be living a life of fear, thinking that everyone's out to get you, being in a state of paranoia. That's obviously not a state that you want to live in. But on the flip side, you don't want to be so lax and lazy and not having awareness of the situation. Here's some things that you can do to be more situational aware. First and foremost, get off your phone. Stop being glued to your phone. Saying never accept the phone call, that you never get an important message or something like that. I'm saying being glued to your phone, playing some game instead of interacting with your family, which is a big no-no. You're wasting time with them so you can send a tweet, so you can play a game, which is ridiculous. But you're looking down, you're slumped over. As something does pop off, you're going to be a couple seconds behind in reaction time. Worst case scenario, some crazy maniac comes with a weapon, shooting a gun everywhere or something like that. That couple seconds of reaction time could be the difference between life and death, between you, your children, your wife, whatever the situation might be. So you got to practice that. You got to practice getting off your phone, stop being glued to your device. And if you do have to use it, here's the next step. Step in a way that it won't be obvious that you're not paying attention. For example, you're talking on the phone like this, but you're actually looking at what's going on with the situation around you. What you don't want to be doing is looking down, typing like this, and you should be looking up. Talking on the phone and by the way, you shouldn't be talking for a 10-hour conversation. Hey, like basic stuff. Hey, I got to get back to you. I'm busy right now, and then we'll talk later when things are calmer. But if you're looking just straight down at your phone and you can't even observe the general bubble around you, you're asking for trouble. You're just asking for yourself to get pickpocketed, robbed, your personal space infiltrated, or something to happen to you, depending on the circumstances. And I know this because I don't know how many times that I'm driving, I'm going down the road, and somebody is not paying attention and they almost run into my car because they're crossing the street. They didn't realize that it's a red light or it's a do not cross, and they almost run into me. And I've had people look at me like I'm the jerk because they're on their phone. Look up. Is what you're doing, what you're standing out, texting or whatever, more important than your livelihood? I mean, we know the obvious answer, but that's what I mean about situational awareness. So get off your phone, get off your device, and if you do use it in a way that you can keep your eyes and keep your focus and concentration open. The other thing is, and I alluded to it earlier in this conversation, is actually interacting with your family, your wife and kids. I know that you might be doing something that isn't the most entertaining thing to you as an adult. Your kids want to play, you might have your daughter want to play teacup, tea set with you or something like that. And you might be rolling your eyes thinking like, this is lame, this is boring. But to them, it's very important. And you just want to be aware with them and actually be in the moment with them. And on top of that, there's another reason for situational awareness. It's letting your family know that you care. Letting them know that your phone isn't more important, that some other task isn't more important than your time with them, because you only have so many days, weeks, and hours that you can spend with them. That stuff is very important. And of course, the most important reason to be situationally aware is so you can disarm threats or flee from threats if you see something is amiss. Every guy, if you're out in public, not, locked, cooped up in your home or, at bed during the night, that's the only time where you're 100% off the hook. But in most situations, you're in public, you're out and about, your antenna should be up at least slightly so you can avert the situation. And there is no shame in running or fleeing from the situation. Well, just don't leave your family behind. But if something seems weird, suspicious, or just off, it's no shame to leave and go to a different environment. We talk so much about women having women's intuition. Well, men have intuition too, where they can see, they can sense danger. And I know men, our natural inclination is to run to danger or to address the situation or to man up. But when we've got smaller, less physically capable individuals that we're watching over, we have to be mindful representatives for them. So while you might want to go and be a tough guy, your first thought should be, let me get my kids to safety. Let me get my kids to a more of a safe haven. Okay, because they don't think like that. Kids tend to be, especially, the younger they are, they tend to be more free-willed, not thinking about threats and stuff. They're more trusting, they're more dependable. That's how kids, unfortunately get trafficked and they get abducted and they get abused, is because of their vulnerability and because of their inability to not only protect themselves compared to an adult, but to be able to discern threats. So you want to be that person for your kids until they get old enough to be able to do that themselves. Now, who knows? It's different for everybody, but I would say at least until, late teenager, young adulthood, where they're able to do that. And even then, you're still going to be dad. You're still going to be the final say-so next to Jesus Christ about their safety, security, and how they should go about things. The only difference is, once they become adult, they're going to be more independent. But you should still be situationally aware. It kind of ties into some of the other stuff I talk in my videos about keeping yourself in shape, keeping yourself active, not just to look good, not just to look buff and, impress the chicks, but to take care of yourself. If you need to run, whether running away from a threat or running towards something to get somebody out of danger, you want to have some good cardio so you're not winded, so you're not too tired to run to or run from wherever you need to go. You want to have some strength, do some resistance training so you're able to push something away, lift something away, carry something or someone if you need to. You should learn some form of self-defense, whether that be a martial arts, whether it's combat training, whether it's having a weapon, legally in your possession, but be able to protect and defend yourself in case it comes to that last resort situation. I mean, obviously you should be avoiding those situations in general and not looking for trouble, but if you find yourself back into a corner, don't be empty-handed. See, these are the kind of things that you have to think about. And I'm just going to conclude with this. Again, you don't have to be paranoid about it. You don't have to sit there and be neurotic and think that there's a threat around every corner. But you don't have to go to the other extreme too and think that everybody's going to be your buddy. There are going to be situations where you can't just talk yourself out of, where you can't just ignore and think that everything's magically going to go away. There are going to be situations where you're not going to be you're going to be the only one in that moment to handle it. And you're not going to be able to defend or to piggyback off somebody else defending you. You're not going to be able to hide behind somebody, especially as an adult. A lot of times you're going to be the last line of reason or defense. And when you're the man, that especially falls on you. I'm not saying that mothers don't have that responsibility, but women, if you're married, if you're in a relationship, the man in your life, he's got to be the first line of defense. He's got to be the first person to come to the forefront. There's a reason that men have more muscle, we're taller, we've got deeper, louder voices to ward off threats. There's a reason behind that. So you have to cultivate those gifts that God gave you to defend those that you care about and that you love. See too many men going in the opposite direction, where they try to simmer down, they try to make their voice calmer and less deep and less direct. They don't work on building their strength, their muscle, their bodies, and they let themselves become soft and doughy and almost woman-like and feminine. And they think they're going to talk, plead, motivational interview their way out of some adverse situations. And it's not going to work like that. somebody comes with a weapon up to you and they say, give me your wallet, give me your keys, or they threaten your family or something like that, you're not going to sit there and develop empathy and have them sit on the couch and tell you about their problems. It's a problem with a lot of this modern society of being too gentle. You want everyone to be friends. Can't we all just get along? You want the parents to be super gentle. We want to be coddled. People go to therapy. People go to psychotherapy, and they want to have their hair stroked and get their hair brushed, and they want to have sunshine and lollipops thrown at them, and they want you to be soft and unprepared and just unaware. It's okay to be comfortable. It's okay to be fine. It's okay to have a certain level of comfort, but not to the point that you stop taking care of yourself, which by extension means that you don't take care of anybody in your life. But I'm already getting a little far off topic. My main point is practice situational awareness. Take care of yourself so you'll be able to take care of others. Be on the lookout. There's creeps out here. There's weirdos out here. Yes, you can sit back, relax, but you should have your antennas up just a little bit in case something weird goes off. Don't be caught unprepared. Okay? You're a man. You care about your family. Don't be caught off guard, unprepared. All right? Take care. Appreciate you guys. God bless. Peace.